Yeah, there are ways that therapists can use Facebook to generate awareness.
Hmm.
But my biggest suggestion for them is utilize Facebook groups, whereby, let's just say, if your specialty is working with, um, just a random example, like new moms, you can look for a local Facebook groups for new moms and join that group, but you have to be mindful of the rules based that is set up by the group owner. There are specific groups where, let's just say, okay, so I'm in Massachusetts, I'm in Boston. If I go to Facebook and search up Boston Moms Group, and then I'll see what pops up. I'll then go look at the rules, and if the rules clearly states you're not allowed to promote or solicit business, you can still join the group. But what you do is you add value.
All right. Welcome to The Boost, conversations with people promoting mental health. And I am highly confident we have another great one here today. My guest is Omar Ruiz, LMFT. He's the founder of Online Private Practice. And recently had the chance to meet Omar in person. He was generous enough to speak at my conference through a pre-note presentation that he recorded. And it's obvious he's a great YouTuber, great production value and all of that, and then great content value. So Omar, stoked to see you again here virtually. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. I came from the gym, had a coaching session with a therapist, and then now I'm here.
Awesome. Oh, that's a good start to the morning, taking care of yourself and then getting right into the work.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because I have two girls, and for folks, they can see them behind me. If they're seeing the YouTube version of this episode, where I want to make sure that I'm maintaining myself and my energy for them because they are just full of energy.
Hmm. Yeah, maintaining the energy. Yeah, that's a good point to make. I thought about that a lot this weekend. I went to this car race called the Petite Le Mans in Atlanta, Georgia, and it's called the Petite because there's the 24 hours of Le Mans in France, and
Hmm.
then the small one here in the States is only 10 hours long. It's like this massive enduro race, and but it's fascinating. But so much of it is around energy consumption and resource management, energy management, to the point that, in races like this, my brother, who's a real gearhead and enthusiast, I'm not actually, but I found myself getting sucked into the energy and the vibe of the race, where
Hmm.
I was sort of arm's length when I walked in. And then by the end of it, I was hooked. But he said that in a different race, the car teams were doing was like introducing a little tiny gap in the cylinders, like in the valve covers in the cylinders, which would burn oil because there was like 6 quarts of oil in the car. And over the race, that weighs a little bit, like a pound or two or whatever. And over the race, they would be burning oil to lighten the load on their car so they could go faster. So now there's rules around that, but um, not that you're doing that by going to the gym. But the point is that you're working on little ways that you can capture that energy and have it sustained for your daughters.
Yeah, I'm not at the six pack bodybuilder type of physique, but to me, it's more of like I need to figure out a way of how to maintain my health in the best way possible. So that way, one, I have the energy for them, and two, I'm not at a risk of having any health complications that
Mhm.
could get in the way of me just being a present dad for them.
Just being present. Yeah. Well, I'm guessing this may dovetail into my first question for you. It may not, though. I'm not going to make any assumptions. But the first thing I like to ask all my guests is the virtual hug, which is tell us somebody or something you're thankful for today before we get into the rest of the conversation.
Um, Recently, so I have a Facebook group that anybody can search up. It's online private practice. And recently, I have asked directly to the folks in that group if any of them are open and willing to leave me with what I would call a character review. A character review to me is different from a service review. A service review is anybody who I've offered coaching and they will speak on that. A character review was influenced by I've been on Facebook groups of different private practice groups offering advice, suggestions, and tips for free, just giving them to for free. And I've been doing that now for like the last year and a half. And I wanted to see how much of a value that is to the community. So I asked people, hey, I'm now in need of your help. I'm trying to expand my own online presence outside of Facebook groups to be able to offer my support and services to therapists who are not actively on Facebook. And I need a bit more reviews so that when people do search me, they can see that I'm generally doing good work and offering therapists with support. And what I've appreciated was the amount of people who are willing to leave those reviews for me. And to me, I'm grateful for that because I made it abundantly clear to them. I don't want you to lie on these reviews. I want you to be honest and speak to either how my support, advice, and strategies have been helpful to you directly or even indirectly, whereby you've made an active decision to join the Facebook group. You've been watching some of my videos on YouTube, and maybe you had a consultation call with me. And to me, my goal is to be authentic and genuine in supporting therapists. So my virtual hug goes to all the people who have been willing and open to leaving me a review, because that to me speaks highly of all the effort that I put into offering people simplified and tangible advice.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, that's really cool. There's a few nuggets there that I'm going to hold on to, and we're going to circle back to those. But thank you for that. And I've never heard of that concept of the character review, being something that's asked for by the business owner. So we'll come back to that. Give us your shameless plug, which is as context for sort of my future questions for you. Tell us what you're working on, what you've been doing with your career, where it's going. You're entrepreneurial. You got a number of things in the fire, it seems like. So give us some context for what you're working on.
Yep. So professionally speaking, I'm an LMFT. So for folks who aren't aware, that's licensed marriage and family therapist. I currently live in Massachusetts. I'm in the Boston area. I have my own private practice, a solo private pay practice, which is focused on helping couples that are struggling with infidelity issues. But outside of that, I am focusing on building my secondary business, which is called Online Private Practice, which is a business coaching service for therapists who are either new or seasoned, as a way to support them on how to improve their online presence when it comes to attracting clients, especially the clients that they want to work with. Within that, I have slowly been working on building a YouTube channel, which people can just go to YouTube and type up Online Private Practice. As of now, I have about 11 videos there, but I'm very intentional about the videos. The consensus is within the YouTube community, you want to publish a video per week. And I've decided to take a different stance, which is I'll provide a quality video when I can. And that quality video is based on doing research and making sure whatever I present, it's tangible, it's simplified, and anybody can fact check me. Unfortunately, I don't subscribe to the hustle culture of generating so much content because one, I don't want to burn out. I know that this is a marathon, not a sprint, especially with social media marketing. And so I figured this would be the second part, which is since it takes me some time to create those videos, I'm going to jump into creating a podcast, which is also going to be entitled Online Private Practice. I'm in the starting phase of organizing it. I'm trying to gather up what equipment I need, getting a consultation to set that up, figuring out what is the type of episodes that I want to record, and figure out my voice on that platform. So I would say to your audience to stay tuned for that because that will be in the making. And then outside of that, I have the Facebook group, and for folks who are aware of me, I'm actively on different private practice groups offering advice and strategies as a way to more so to push out my brand, which is someone who is transparent, someone who's genuinely trying to help, and taking a stance against this, what I would call this gatekeeping culture of the selling of information. To me, I say, fuck gatekeeping, because we live in a world where anybody can Google anything and go to YouTube and find out information. So I'm not here to sell information. I would rather give all that information out for free. I'm in the market of, if someone hires me as a business coach, they're hiring me to help them with the implementation of the information. They're not hiring me for the information. And so I'm taking a big stance because there's so many different private practice consultants and business coaches that they're trying to hold on to the information as a way to generate service. And I understand that, but I think, to me, my stance is be genuine, give out the information, and over time, hopefully that will build a trusting reputation. So if folks are interested, then they can just go to onlineprivatepractice.com if they wanted to set up a consultation with me. But if not, if you want to know how I help, go to YouTube, see my videos, join the Facebook group, Online Private Practice, and then just send me a DM, and then I'm more than welcome to answer questions.
Okay, so the strategy there, and as an aside, how long have you been building online private practice? I don't know. Sorry if I missed that.
Good question. So, since April of 2021, and
Okay.
the interesting part was I had no plans on becoming a business coach, none whatsoever. I literally, how did it all start? Really quickly,
How did it all start?
I was so I had my private practice for about 9 years. First 4.5 years under insurance. I took a year off for personal reasons, and then I restarted as a private pay practice under the brand. So my brand for the private pay practice is Talk, Think, Thrive. And I reopened it October 2019. COVID hit in March, and everything that I was doing before was very traditional marketing, like passing out business cards, flyers, going to networking event meetings. And all of that shit just went downhill because I couldn't see people. So I had no choice but to look at the business from an online perspective, which influenced the title Online Private Practice. So I went on YouTube, and I call it YouTube University, because a lot of information that's there, it's like people are teaching people. So I was getting a bit flustered because any of the business coaches, private practice consultants, or private practice building programs that create content, they weren't necessarily sharing information to me that I didn't already know. Because again, I already had the practice for 4.5 years. What I was looking for was, how do I promote this online? Because what some therapists don't realize when they get into private practice is, when you sign up for insurance, it's much easier to market your practice because you're on insurance panels. The insurance does the marketing for you. A client can just call insurance and say, hey, I'm looking for this provider. If you're on the list, good. As soon as you go into private pay, that's a whole different business realm. You really have to focus on marketing. So, because I was trying to figure things out at the time, I was working as a full-time middle school counselor. And unfortunately, I was spending more time in my free time at school looking up ways of how to build the business of the private practice. And they didn't necessarily caught wind to that. What they caught wind to was my lack of engagement at the job. And so they told me they were going to renew my contract. And as anybody, especially as a parent, you're in survival mode. You're thinking, how am I going to make do? I have bills to pay. I have kids to raise. And I went and I did what a lot of people do. You apply for jobs. I kept the private practice as like what some people would call like a side hustle or a side gig. But I knew, I said, something is off. I would get to the final interviews, no one would hire me. And in my mind, I'm thinking, is this a sign in the universe to say, this is not where you're supposed to be? You need to build your business. So I dedicated myself to learn about SEO. Once I got to the point of understanding it, I outsourced it to a company. And that was a big decision. I was very hesitant about doing it because I tell myself, well, why would I outsource it if I know what I'm doing? But SEO is a lot of work. And so I figured I have to spend more time on the business, like doing other aspects of the business of marketing it. So went to YouTube, started studying, just watching videos, reading articles about SEO, local SEO through Google Business, how to optimize my therapy directory profiles. And within 6 months, because that's all I had left, 6 months with that contract. Within 6 months, I was done with the middle school job. I had an intermediate, what is the word? Intermediary. Oh, I don't even know the word. Basically, I had a summer gig that helped me in the in between space. And then after that gig was over, I was all full time with the private practice. Then, in fast forward to April of that same year, I decided to search up private practice Facebook groups. Never knew that they existed. Um, I started giving out advice, and one of the groups suspended me. Um, and they at least had the decency of messaging me to explain to me, we already have a private practice building program. So we appreciate all the free advice you're giving. However, indirectly, what they were saying is you're taking away clients from us.
Sure.
And in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, fuck it. I'm just going to create my own group. But, I waited out the suspension period and tried to learn. And I got kicked out of other groups as well, because I did not, again, understand the culture. And the culture is, if you have a Facebook group, 9 times out of 10, you're pushing out your service. You're coaching, you're consulting, or you're building program or something.
Sure.
And then from there, I then had to start learning about social media marketing, because I don't use, to be transparent, I don't use social media for my private practice. What I use mostly is local SEO, and therapy directory sites. For this business, it's very much social media driven.
Sure.
And where I'm left off now is, I still take the position of, and it's not sustainable, to be honest with you. I still take the position of, every day, whenever I have free time, people will post up questions. I will answer the questions. I will be genuinely honest with them. I tell people, if you don't believe me, fact check it, go to Google. And it's a lot more so around the marketing aspect of, they're getting upset because clients aren't contacting them on Psychology Today. They're not getting as much visits or traction on websites. They doubt whether or not people are willing to pay them out of pocket for their service. And because I have a full-time private paid practice, I know it's possible. It's just, a lot of these therapists don't have the proper information and understanding of what it means to market a practice. They assume it's, you put your stuff out there, people are going to run down to your door and say, I need want to book a session with you. And that's not how it works. The only way that that's even possible is if they invested in Google Ads. But even that, that's very, very costly. So in short, or at least a wrap up, it's taken me, I started building it in April of 2021 because I got kicked out of a group. And then since then, it's where I have it now. Right now, in comparison to other people's Facebook groups, it's small. I have about 1,200 members. YouTube, I'm getting close to having about 1,000 subscribers with only having posted 11 videos. I'm very competitive, so I look at the other business coaches and private practice consultants, and I already have a list of who I'm competing against, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting close to your number. Once I pass your number, you're gone. And so, to me, it's more of like reputation. I want to be able to produce quality information and quality content. And quality does not equal the quantity that everybody else is pushing out. I'm looking at it as, when you see my videos, if you work with me, you know that I'm being transparent, I'm being real, and I'm being consistent. So that, to me, is what has laid down to where I'm at now.
Okay. So you're more open source, sort of on the what, it's like, this is the information. What you really need to do is figure out how and why and when to activate this information into your strategy for building your private practice, or building your practice. And so you have sort of a strategy of generosity where you're giving away the content for free. And of course, sometimes in in these closed rooms, these Facebook rooms, it's a purchased audience or a captive audience for the company or person with the incentive to sell products to that audience. And that, of course, I mean, I know, that all makes sense, makes perfect sense. But now you've created your own group. Facebook is such a trip for me. Meta and Facebook, I don't use it hardly at all personally. I've had to create a profile in order to create a profile for the Mental Health Marketing Conference. And so I've like dabbled in it in this last year. And then Instagram, we have a company page as well. Two things I said I think needed to be on the roadmap. What's your take on Meta? Is it still, it's one of the first movers in social media. Is it still providing a ton of value, or is it going through sort of a transition period that you see the writing on the wall, or a new iteration? Like what's your take on that platform for what you're doing?
So let me see. I would say if therapists want a platform or an avenue to connect with other therapists who are going through the experience of building or growing a private practice, I'd say it's a good platform to go on. The 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 main issue that I come across, because I have to deal with this on a day-to-day basis, is politics. Both the bureaucratic nature of how people choose to interact with each other, as well as real world politics, like the current events that are going on in the Middle East. And it gets ugly. The assumption is we're all under this umbrella of Meta and Facebook as a way to socially connect with people, to get educated, or to learn something. But then when people bring in their own perspectives that are outside of the business of therapy or the business of a private practice, that's when things get a bit fishy, or just like for some people cringy. Um, uh, as far as what people can benefit from within that platform, I think it's an additional source of connection. I don't know as far as the efficacy of it, but I will say if people are looking on to just getting help, they can go on these platforms, post up a question, and get a response. Depending on the person, I'm someone who is going to be very detailed. I'm going to be someone who's going to be very transparent depending on what the question is. Say, for example, if the question they post is um, how I've done the networking, I have a Facebook business page, I have an Instagram profile, but I'm not getting anybody. What then? And so what I do is I search them. I tell people it's not that I'm stalking you, it's just that anybody can Google anybody. So your clients are likely going to Google you if they're at all interested in what you have to offer. So I Google them. I tell them, this is what your marketing material is like. All you do is talk about yourself. Your clients can care less about you. They don't care about what license, degree, certificate, training, or theoretical framework you use. That doesn't connect well to them. What connects well to them is, do you know how to treat this issue, and when's the next available time you have? And so I give that feedback to them. And so I would say, to go back to the question, is there room for Meta to be able to improve their platform? I would say so. I do appreciate there has been notifications when you're a Facebook group owner of trainings that they offer as far as like how to best engage with your audience. So I do give them credit for that. I just don't know if people or therapists have any idea that they could use these platforms as a way to generate connection, referrals, and just learn about the business side of it.
Because on the patient side or the consumer side, with your own practice, you're using local SEO and SEO, and you're not really using social media to, drive new lead acquisition that way, to use a marketing term. But for therapist to therapist, or if you're going on there looking for how to grow my business, almost more of a B2B approach. There are these forums and resources that you can go on and join or be a part of, and you find value in that.
Yeah, there are ways that therapists can use Facebook to generate awareness. But my biggest suggestion for them is utilize Facebook groups, whereby, let's just say, if your specialty is working with, just a random example, like new moms, you can look for a local Facebook groups for new moms and join that group. But you have to be mindful of the rules that is set up by the group owner. There are specific groups where, let's just say, okay, so I'm in Massachusetts, I'm in Boston. If I go to Facebook and search up Boston Moms Group, and then I'll see what pops up. I'll then go look at the rules, and if the rules clearly states you're not allowed to promote or solicit business, you can still join the group. But what you do is you add value. So adding value is simply if a new mom is posting a question and there's concern about something, and your specialty is perinatal pregnancy or postpartum, you can share that. You can answer their question. You can say, as a therapist who specializes in this, this is what I would recommend. And then leave it as that. Don't push your business. Don't push your website. All you're doing is you're adding value through your expertise, through adding comments. So it could be, you could have the B2C, but with these groups, what they don't like is the pushing of the marketing. And this is where I tell people, what you're doing is I call it the car salesman tactic. You're just pushing your business down their throat, and that's not what people went to Facebook for. They went to Facebook to connect with people. So do what you do best as a therapist, connect with them through your expertise. So there's possibility to do B2C on Facebook. They just have to be intentional about how they go about it.
There's a book by Marcus Sheridan called They Ask You Answer. And that's basically the entire digital marketing strategy in order to, one, stop the navel gazing of yourself and your own priorities and incentives, and two, to really get out there and provide value. People are asking questions all the time. I mean, it's why Google exists. How do I tell if my tomato soup is out of date or whatever? It's like all these questions. You can pick a niche and you can do extremely well. And Facebook forums and groups is obviously another example of where people are genuinely posting questions. So it just becomes a matter of how can I target and find these questions and provide value. And again, that's generous. That takes time. There's no pitch after that, if the groups don't allow it, unless you want to just get kicked out again, which is not a great use of time. But to be able to answer their questions in a helpful way, that provides value. That is actually solving somebody's problem. It could be a small problem. It could be uncovering a giant problem that's right underneath that question. So that's interesting. And it sounds like that's been working for you as a way to generate authentic relationships with people who, might have a follow through conversation or question for you.
Oh yeah. I don't know how you feel about this person, but are you familiar with Gary Vee?
Oh yeah. I knew you were going to say that name. Punch. What does he say? Jab, jab, jab.
Jab, 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 right hook.
Yeah.
And I took it from his model, which is you give. You give value, then you offer the sell. And that's what I do. I give. Now, granted, if I could start over, this is not at all the framework that I would want to do. It does take so much time and so much energy and so much effort. But I figured, you know what? Fuck it. It took me some time to build my private practice. It's going to take me some time to learn the landscape of social media marketing. And if I'm a one-man team, so I do hire out freelancers to help me out in different aspects, but it's not like a lot of these other business coaches for therapists or private practice consultants where they tend to be group owners. And so they're able to leverage the funds that they get from their group practice to help with their marketing.
Yeah.
I legitimately felt like, okay, if I'm a small fish in a big pond, and this goes actually back to your mental health marketing conference, I knew no one's going to know who the fuck I am. So what can I leverage? And my leverage was, how do I grab people's attention? And I did that by organically engaging on these platforms.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I did with the mental health marketing conference, where we were using the Hoova app.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured, I said, I'll do the same thing I do on Facebook. I'll go there, I'll ask genuine questions, and I'll pose questions. Because what people are going to notice is that app has a there was someone at the conference that said this, and I was just like, oh, that's interesting. The gamification of apps to encourage you to engage and all within the app. So like
Yeah.
the app itself gave you points for responding. People eventually found out that you can get a point by just simply saying, oh, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
However, for me, I said, you know what? I don't want to be known for that. I don't want to be known as a person who just gave quick answers and then got points for it. I want to be known as someone who genuinely is trying to engage in conversation and asking questions that will allow the speaker or the presenter, or whoever, to say, oh, this is a good question. And I actually, when I got to the conference, I had people coming to me and saying, you know what, your question was actually genuine. I had to think about how to respond to it. And
Mm.
that to me meant more, because not only was on the leaderboard, but I was on the leaderboard because I was genuinely being myself. I was asking questions and not just half-assing it just for the sake of points. And I do this. That's how I do the Facebook. I engage authentically, and over time, whenever I do get new people who sign up for the coaching consultation, I'll ask them, why did you set this up? And they say, I've been paying attention to you. I've been paying attention to you for the last year, and you've been very genuinely honest. I saw your YouTube videos, and your information and the quality of information you're giving is very insightful. And to me, that speaks more to all the hard work, all the doubts that I've had about building this business, to say this shit really works.
Mm.
It takes time. So that's the only thing if I would ever see Gary Vee, I would say this shit takes a lot of fucking time. It's a lot of fucking energy. And I'm I'm just like any other person. I call it the America's microwave effect, where I want the food, I want it now. And
Yeah.
that's what I want with my business. I want it to grow to the extent of I can uh, take a step back and then have the business run itself. And I'm like, that's not how a business is run. Like, yes, there's exceptions to the rule, but that's what, for me, being an entrepreneur means. That yes, I left a 9 to 5, or in the school it's a 7 to 3 or 7 to 4, but I'm working a lot more than I did when I was working
Mhm.
for someone. But
Yeah.
it's connected to my end outcome. So
So to that point, yeah, you did present at the conference. You pre-recorded a video called a pre-note, and then you ran a workshop. We're going to do that format again, make it even better, some tools and resources and things, some ways to make it easier for people to watch the video. But we always do this, excuse me, we always do this post-event survey. And we ask a couple questions. And one question we asked was, which presentation or presentations provide the most value and why? And this is an anonymous survey, but I can tell that one answer was, I'd be biased to say my own, Psychology Today. But then you went on to talk about the SMS SMS presentation and the LinkedIn presentation. So I know these aren't you. I don't know who they are, but I'll read you a few
yeah,
to the answer of which presentations provided you the most value and why. So the session on building a Psychology Today profile, and another one, Amy Keller Laird's session, both gave me practical, easy to implement strategies to improve the marketing of my solo private practice. The very next answer, Omar Ruiz, he actually presented steps to improving your profile on Psychology Today. And then they give kind of the reasons why, and they talk about another one. And then we ask the question, this is a different question, what did you like most about the event generally? And the answer, there's a lot of answers. One of them is, I like the speakers who provided really specific, actionable steps that therapists can take to improve their marketing. For example, Omar Ruiz's talk on how to write a Psychology Today profile. So all that to say, you did a great job, and it came out in the wash of the survey results and the people we've talked to. And not to say everybody wants or needs, actionable, specific advice, but they really do, and more often than not, they're looking for some clear, crisp takeaways. And that's something I'm always encouraging speakers to do is, regardless of this is a high level strategic theoretical conversation, or if this is a DIY, 101 conversation, because we attract both audiences. When it comes to marketing, we have brand new therapists who have never taken a marketing class in their lifetime figuring out how to do a website. And then we have SVPs and, chief marketing officers at behavioral health companies who have lived and breathed marketing for a long time. And so we have to service both. We get the opportunity to service both. And so I think what you were providing in terms of your strategy, I would just encourage you in some real world results here, where they really didn't have an incentive or skin in the game to tell you this because they didn't think you'd ever hear it. And we don't know who they are exactly, but that's the feedback.
Well, honestly, that's um, the same sentiment. I don't know if you, hopefully you can recall when I had came to you at the end of the conference and thanked you. And there was a point in time where I was not expecting it. I was getting a bit emotional simply because, and I'm hoping it doesn't happen right now. Because as a therapist and as a man, I'm not going to apologize if emotions show up, because to me, I take a stand against any ideas regarding men and us having to be emotionless. Or so I'm Puerto Rican, and so and within the Latin culture there's this machismo uh, 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 notion of like what it means to be a man. So so I'm just prefacing that. So when I went up to you and I thanked you, it was because to me, uh, what I genuinely appreciated was you gave me the opportunity to be able to speak. Um, and at that time, I was still building the business. So in my mind, I'm like, I don't know if he's even going to select me. I don't have that much of a following. Like, what value do I bring? And when you gave me that opportunity, I said, fuck it. I'm going to do whatever I can to still be my authentic self and share that, because you made it clear in your emails that what your audience wants is something tangible, something that they can take away. And I felt like, that's what I do. I give folks something tangible. My tagline is, and I'm actually shifting it a little bit. Originally, my tagline is, I'm here to simplify the business of an online private practice. I'm going to be shifting it to simplifying the business and marketing of an online private practice. And to me, when you're sharing what people have shared, um, knowing that I haven't heard anything about it, um, to me speaks volumes that whatever I'm doing or whatever I did was valuable to people. And that's what I work hard to do, which, as I mentioned, is exhausting. Sometimes I just want to be human and just give like a short response. But there's always this part of me of like, if and when my kids see any of my work, what I want them to say was that he generally wanted to help people. He he spent time and dedicated his craft to support the mental health community, because this is something that he was passionate on. And I'm proud of that. And that to me is what is going to, when people speak about they want to build a legacy or they want to be known for something, to me, I just want to be known as, to the eyes of my kids, someone who was passionate, was authentic, was himself, and was someone who genuinely cared. And that to me is what's important.
That shines through. I mean, you saw me cry on stage, so I mean, I'm all for it. And that's obvious that you are. This is part of your heartbeat of the work that you're doing. I've looked at this conference as, when I got involved, which was it had already been running a few years, like just an acorn that fell out of the sky. It's like rough around the edges, doing something great, doing really great work. Not just to level up the marketing in the behavioral health space, but also to shine a light on some of the unethical things that were happening at different points with ad spend and heads and beds and all of that. So yeah, it is doing really good work. And then to watch it grow into a sapling, when you talk about legacy, it's impossible to know. It's almost impossible to imagine what the future could look like, because it could be so big and exciting, or so just so rich and distilled in terms of the work and the efficacy. But yeah, to watch it turn into an oak tree, and then like a grove of those, and then to walk away, hand it to my daughter, and be on my way. It's like that's my end game. It's like and I think that'll be just a net positive experience for the world, and put it in good hands, and send her sailing. So yeah, man, I'm right there with you. I that resonates with me. I can relate to that. And I do think I don't know if it falls into any kind of specific gender lines or not, but the interest in playing infinite games, rather than playing finite games. And finite games is where everybody has the same rules, and somebody's trying to win and everybody loses except that person, rather than infinite games where the goal of the game is to continue to play, or continue for the game to be played, and we adjust the rules if there are any, in order to continue to play. And you see that with kids pretty often, like in their natural play state, which becomes our work eventually. But before we get too much world influence, there's just this dance of play that kids do, and you see these funny rules come up, and it's just to continue the game. And so I applaud you for being able to tap into that long game thinking. I'm always thinking as long as I can, like what's 80-year-old Steve want, but then what's beyond that? Like what does Steve want beyond 80-year-old Steve, when Steve is gone? That's an interesting, hard question to get our minds around sometimes. So I don't know where I'm going with that, but just riffing with you at this point.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I was trying to put
You're fine. Uh-oh. Did I lose you? Oh, okay.
No, I'm still right here. I was trying to mute it so I wouldn't like mess things up with your audience.
I'm good with the wabi-sabi. So, I'm good with the...
Yeah. I would say yes, as far as like thinking through like the long game, because I think this is a question I have for therapists. What do you want to get out of your private practice? A lot of them think about the immediate, I want to get out of my job. I want to be able to make a certain income so I can buy a house. And I tell them, okay, but once you get there, then what? What do you want to do with the business? Do you want to sell it? Do you want to grow into a group? Do you just want to maintain it so that way you can have some free time to yourself to dedicate? Which is why I like the go working out. I literally dropped my kids off at school and I said, this interview is in about 4 hours from now. What do I have time to do? And I wanted to go work out. I will say, when I was working full time and trying to do the practice, that was very challenging. It was either work out very early in the morning at 5 o'clock or work out at 5 p.m. And I hated the 5 p.m. because any gym you go to, that's like peak hours. But the 5 o'clock is what I tend to see more like the senior citizens. And it's quiet, but I'm exhausted. I don't want to be at the gym at 5 o'clock. But now I can go to the gym at 10 and it's awesome. And so to go to the long-term strategy, that is, you have to have small wins. You have to, if you're going to do a long-term strategy with any business, you have to have some sort of small wins in between to keep you pushing. And to me, a small, like, it's a big small win to me. Like when I got a chance to present at the mental health marketing conference, because that to me solidified that I do belong in this industry. I do belong in the industry of helping folks within mental health about marketing, because I'm gonna be honest, it was a lot of imposter syndrome for me going into that conference, because I'm going against agencies and other businesses that have been doing this for a while. And in my mind, I'm like, who am I? Who am I to them? And advice to therapists is, just because you are new in the realm of like trying to build your practice, or even if you've been in it for some time, I would say everybody struggles with imposter syndrome. And what my best advice is to remind yourself of like, the people that are most important are the people that you're helping in right then and there. They don't know the imposter syndrome exists. What they know is they selected you to help them with their issue. And
Yeah.
so, to the mental health conference, I felt like, you selected me to offer my advice, my experience, whatever it is that you saw in my application to present at that conference. To me, that's what I was trying to hold on to. And I'm an introvert at heart. I don't know if you've seen it. I was scared shitless presenting, even though I had like, it was a breakout session, it was a pre-note. I had maybe a good chunk of like 10, 12 people that eventually came, but I was so scared. Even though I'm vouching for me to do it again next year, it's not going to take away from the fact that I'm scared shitless to present. But that's part of the long game for me to be able to build this business, which is, I'm gonna have to put myself in circumstances that I'm uncomfortable with, but it's about the end outcome. Like, that's to me is a long game. It's, if I'm doing this uncomfortableness, it's only because it's not that it's bad for the business. It's more of like, how can I do this in the best and authentic way possible while doing whatever I can to calm down my nerves. I um so anyways, I can go into like what that experience was, but to answer your question, the long game piece is, if you're willing to do the hard work in the beginning, and over time you're gonna hopefully see some of the or what is it, fruits of your labor. If you want to do that, just make sure that you set up some small wins, so that way
Hmm.
you're not deterred from the process.
Yeah. And totally. And yeah, to circle back to the analogy of the oak tree, concentric circles, it's natural. That's actually Fibonacci growth, right? Like that's actually, kind of exponential outward spiral of growth as we see, when you slice into an oak tree and you see the rings over 40 or 60 years, the volume of wood on the outer rings is so much more expansive than the volume of wood on the initial rings. And that's simply because of the natural progression of time. And this isn't any kind of like full endorsement of Woody Allen or anything, but he does say like 80% of success is showing up. Like he's talking about baseball, and it's true for life too. Like most of success is simply showing up as yourself and doing the work in the way that you think is best. And there's an aspect of nature way beyond our control or design that steps in for us, whether it's the muse or luck or progress that we make over time. So yeah, just encourage you with your podcast that's coming out. Hopefully that turns into something, if that aligns with what your goals are. And just watch the concentric circles with time in the game. Like that's the biggest secret. I think that's why the Beatles were so successful. I think that's why Taylor Swift is so successful. Like start early, keep playing, don't kill it, keep playing, keep writing, keep doing it, keep going. And it doesn't have to be business success. It can be a very silent success of being a monk, or being a teacher, or any number of things, as long as you're aligned with what your work and your goals are. Yeah, just keep adding a ring every year, and then look back at the end. That's when you can do the accounting and say, oh man, look at that. That oak
Well,
tree is a
yeah,
beast.
I would say, for the therapists who are listening, um, when you start your practice, don't, I don't know who said this quote, but don't look at your chapter 1 to someone's chapter 15.
Totally. Yeah.
You need to, there's this phrasing that a lot of people say that I'm just going to use it for the sake of time. You need to reverse engineer those steps. If you see someone who has a quote unquote thriving practice, which all that simply means is they're full time in their practice and they get to generate enough referrals coming in. If that's what your goal is, then study what that person did. What did they do to get to that space? And then study other people. And then you pick and choose which avenue is going to work for you. I may not have done social media marketing for my private practice, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try. It's
Sure.
just that everybody has their own strategy of what they do, just like mine, building this business coaching business. I don't see a lot of, and I could be wrong, but I don't see a lot of business coaches or private practice consultants actively giving away so much information and actively engaging in these groups because they have their own strategy. And so for me, my strategy is reputation matters. And if you see what I do, then you know that I am genuine about it. And similar to therapists in private practice, if you don't know anything about marketing, go to YouTube. That to me is YouTube University. Just search like how do you go about Google Ads? How do you do SEO? Just learn, and if it's too much for you, then you can hire someone like myself who can help guide you, or you could outsource it to an agency who can do it. I don't want therapists to, uh, for lack of better words, I don't want them to limit themselves because they haven't been taught about marketing or business within grad school. Grad school to me is their main goal is to generate competent therapists who can help the community. Their goal is not to help you with your business. Their goal is to make sure that ethically you're providing sound treatment to the global public.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you leave there, then this is where you uh, meet other people who have, like myself, who have started understanding, studying, and learning about the business and marketing of building a practice, and then can hopefully guide you in where you need to be. So I
Mm-hmm.
would I would certainly agree and second your thoughts.
Well, thanks for all of this. Be prepared for an invite to come back to the conference. Whether it's a panel or some iteration of that, get you on stage again. And we're always working to improve. And it's a great magical event and a community, a true community of people. And there's a core of people who have been coming back for a long time. And there's something about that. And then it's always just as wonderful when somebody like you discovers it and attends or comes for the first year or speaks and gets involved with this. They stay and they hang around, and I love that, and they become part of this core thing we're building just as much as anybody else. So thanks for what you do. Before we wrap, one last question. It's kind of just a fun one to close out is tell me something that you're either reading or watching or listening to, some kind of content. It could be a book or a new album or anything, but what's either something you're taking in right now content wise or is on your list?
Um, I had an idea that this question was going to come up because I've heard your previous podcast, and I felt like, oh, if I were to be ever asked this question, I would have this. Number one, I hate fucking reading. I hate it so much. I don't know how I graduated grad school, to be honest with you. The way I learn is through watching videos and listening. So like podcasts,
Yeah.
audiobooks.
That's funny. We
Selfishly,
were just having my brother and I were just having a conversation about this, how the published word is actually a technology, and it's like with hyper leveraged technology. And so like reading a play is so painful. Shakespeare's like, oh, the play's the thing. And that has a lot of meanings, but yeah, the written word can be, I mean, I do love to read myself. I can kind of see both sides of this coin, but I could totally see your side of the coin of like how efficient it is and meaningful and human to have conversations like this rather than trying to read this transcript later. I guarantee no one reads this transcript later, but they watch the video. So go
no,
ahead.
no. Granted, it's not that I don't read anything. It's more of like, to me, to make my time more efficient, I just need to get straight to what it is. And then if I need more, that's when I use like video content to like visually see. So selfishly, um, because of my competitive nature, all I'm doing is taking in information of other content creators who are also offering marketing and support for therapists. But I find value in that simply because I am trying to figure out what is missing in the market that people could gravitate towards that's valuable to them. Then, once I figure that out, I'm going back and researching and listening to videos and podcasts around that particular subject so that way I can create quality content.
Sure.
So people might say, well, what do you do in your free time? I'm literally lifting weights, listening to podcasts about stuff. And only on certain occasions I'll listen to music. I used to be a big music fan, um, uh, Latin music, reggaeton, salsa, merengue, and then Caribbean music like dancehall. But then, for some reason, as soon as I started going into this realm of building a business, all I've been doing is listening to business podcasts, marketing podcasts, videos on it. And I'll be driving. I'll drive my kids off to their school, and I'll have YouTube playing. Now, granted, I'm not watching the video. I just have whatever the sound is in the background,
Yeah.
and if I hear anything, I go on my phone, create a, a blank text or an email, and I'll use the voice function and say, go back to minute this, second this, because it talks about this. And then that helps me with the business. And once I get to a point where I'm no longer doing that, I think I might still be someone who is listening to it. So it's not anything in particular, to be honest. It's I'm listening to uh, if anybody goes to YouTube and searches up private practice marketing, private practice building, or anything of that nature, and whatever videos pop up, I'm listening to all of them because that helps me understand what do people want and need, and that's what I mostly listen to as far as like any books per se. Of course, there's nothing right now because everything is it's an audio version or it's a video version, and I would just say anything on video as far as building a business is what I'm listening to, and I actually surprisingly find it very much interesting. As long as the person speaking on it captures my attention, then I'm listening to that. So that's where I'm at right now.
That's your path. Yeah. Yeah. That sounds like the right next steps for your path too. Sounds like you're into it, and that's important. Well, Omar, thanks again. It's great to talk with you here for an hour. Great to see you at the conference. I hope to see you back, and we'll talk more about that later. But I could also learn some things from you about the market research that you're doing and how to keep tuned into things. So thanks for being on the Boost.
Thank you so much for the invite.
All right. Take care.